Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Late Friday night, Kirby Smart, the Georgia Bulldogs, continue to fill it up in the 2025 class, landing another commitment from four-star offensive lineman Juan Gaston from the state of Georgia. You look up at this kid, is 6'7", 350 pounds. This is a Georgia Bulldog offensive lineman, and I think that's one of the talking points that I think largely gets missed by a lot of people who talk Georgia football, where yes, Georgia has a ton of success on Saturdays in the fall because they consistently have the top class or top three class out of the high school recruiting rankings. But I think more importantly, like what separates them from all the other programs that recruit very well, Georgia has a clear picture in terms of what kind of prospects they want to bring in on both sides of the football as well. There's a very clear alignment within this program in terms of, hey, what program do we want to look like? And we got to go get kids at the high school ranks that fit what we want to do. And I think that's what separated Georgia from a lot of these other programs that have done well on the recruiting trail as well. You look at the offensive line, it clearly stands out. Georgia wants to be a run-heavy offense that moves bodies off the line of scrimmage. What do you need to move bodies off the line of scrimmage? You need big-bodied offensive linemen. That is exactly what they've been filling this offensive line room up with over the last couple of classes. Yeah, not only does Georgia recruit really well in terms of the high school recruiting rankings, I feel like they get the players that fit exactly what they want to do on both sides of the football, and I think that's what separates Georgia from a lot of other these programs that recruit at a high level. Now, I want to get into Juan Gaston. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Georgia fans who are checking the fellas out late Friday night, talking recruiting. We can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Juan Gaston. I think where you want to start with Juan Gaston is not only is he a 6'7", 350-pound offensive lineman, this kid shows some real athleticism for that size. And at the end of the day, these type of bodies with this type of athleticism, they don't grow on trees. You look at Juan Gaston, he's a basketball player in the winter. You see that footwork, the coordination, the athleticism from the basketball court show up on the football field, particularly in pass protection. Now you look at him in the run game, this is a guy that can move bodies off the line of scrimmage. But again, what separates Juan Gaston from a lot of other offensive linemen that have this size is what he can do from an athletic standpoint. You look at how Georgia wants to run the football. If you want to play for Georgia on the offensive line, you got to be an athlete. You got to be able to get to the second level. You got to be able to pull around to the play side. You look at the film of Juan Gaston, not only is he 6'7", 350 pounds, he is a phenomenal athlete for that size as well. I think it fits to a T what Georgia wants on the offensive line. And although he might not be a top 10 offensive tackle prospect in the 2025 cycle, this is the kind of offensive lineman that Georgia wants to fill their room up with. You dive into the film. The film is a blast to watch. I think a lot smoother than you would think in pass protection, right? You see 6'7", 350, you think, all right, pass protection might be a little bit wonky, might be a little bit shaky. Juan Gaston pass pro looks great. Working up to the second level, when he gets hands on opposing defenders, it's really over. And again, he is very long in the arm, so it is not very hard for him to get his hands on you. But when he gets engaged, you're not normally getting off the block of Juan Gaston. He's got some big-time power in his hands, some big-time grip strength. And again, he's a violent dude. I think that's another thing that Georgia looks for. Hey, do we have offensive linemen that are violent? Juan Gaston's that guy. I think he displays some really nice athleticism. And yes, is he technically a little bit raw? At some points choppy. Yeah, absolutely. What you would expect from a 6'7", 350-pound offensive lineman. That being said, you see some athleticism that you really like in Juan Gaston, especially in pass pro. I mean, he's got good hands. He's got good feet. He mirrors his feet with his hands extremely well. Big-time grip strength, as usual. There's a lot to like about what Juan Gaston brings to the table. Again, violent defender. You see him pull around to the play side here, which – hey, Georgia asked their offensive lineman to do this a lot, and he has the power in his hands to finish violently as well. I look at Juan Gaston, and again, is he a top 10 offensive tackle in this 2025 cycle? No, probably not. Well, I guess according to the recruiting rankings, he's not. That being said, what does Georgia want to do on the offensive line? They want big bodies who can road grade, that can move people off the line of scrimmage. But Juan Gaston is that kind of guy. So it goes back to what we just talked about in terms of Juan Gaston not only being a really good football player, it's because a top 200 national ranked prospect for a reason. I think more importantly, he fits exactly what Georgia wants to do on the offensive line. You go back to the 2024 cycle. I mean, Georgia filled it up in terms of big bodies on the offensive line. And at the end of the day, if you bet on enough of these high ceiling big bodies, you're going to get a really strong starting five offensive line. And you look at Georgia, and I think finally what separates them from a lot of other programs is how deep this offensive line how deep the offensive line is in general, right? You look at Georgia every single year, they seem to take 5, 6, at some points, even 7 offensive linemen. And so you look at so many of these other programs desperately trying to add starting caliber offensive linemen in the transfer portal. Georgia's sitting here saying, hey, we go get these bodies at the high school level. So we're sitting back and just kind of filling in some cracks to our roster. We're not desperate to go to the transfer portal and add a starting caliber offensive lineman like a lot of other programs across the country are. These are some of the things that I think separate Georgia from a lot of other programs across the country. We'll cut it there. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.